I found my wife's smiling face next to a man I knew all too well from her work trips, beneath the chilling inscription, "Our perfect escape. Love always, D." That morning, I greeted her with a smile, discussed anniversary dinner plans, and marinated steaks, all while she remained utterly oblivious. She had no idea that I was already planning the most devastating reclamation imaginable, meticulously preparing the binder that would not only expose her deception but also strip her of a family legacy she thought was hers. The aroma of her homemade lasagna would fill the dining room later that night, but by dessert, her radiant smile would vanish, replaced by the dawning horror that she had just forfeited everything. The weight of the small, ornate box felt familiar in John's hand, a ghost of a memory from countless childhood Christmases spent at his grandmother's sprawling, sun-drenched estate. This wasn't just any box. It contained the antique silver locket, a true family legacy, passed down through generations of his mother's side, reserved only for those milestones deemed truly significant. 10 years. A decade. A testament to enduring love, shared laughter, and battles fought side by side. Our 10th anniversary. It was the perfect, timeless gift for Sarah, a symbol that transcended material value, whispering stories of ancestors and promises of a future interwoven. He had retrieved it from the old, lacquered chest in the attic just yesterday, a dusty, forgotten treasure. Today, in the quiet solitude of his study, the morning light streaming through the window, he held it reverently. He'd decided to have it professionally cleaned, its intricate filigree polished to a brilliant sheen, and then, inside, he'd secretly place a tiny photo, a candid shot from their wedding day, a private moment of pure, unadulterated joy captured forever. It was a gesture he knew would bring tears to Sarah's eyes, a deeply personal surprise that would affirm every vow they had made. With a gentle click, the locket sprung open. John braced himself for the sight of the tarnished metal where their future photo would rest, perhaps a faint echo of a past image, though he knew his grandmother had kept it empty for years. But the interior wasn't empty. It was filled. A miniature photo, vibrant and impossibly clear, stared back at him. His breath hitched. It was Sarah. Her hair, usually so meticulously styled, was slightly windblown, catching the light as she threw her head back in a peal of laughter. Her eyes, usually reserved and discerning, sparkled with an unrestrained mirth he rarely saw directed solely at him. And next to her, arm draped casually around her shoulders, was a man. Not him. A stranger. Or rather, a man he recognized all too well from countless company reports and occasional, fleeting glimpses in the polished corridors of her office building. Daniel Thorne. His mind, usually a well-ordered cascade of facts and figures, suddenly jammed. The smile on Sarah's face in the photo was too intimate, too unguarded. It spoke of a bond deeper than casual acquaintance, more profound than mere collegiality. His fingers, trembling slightly, reached for the photo. It was delicate, expertly printed. As he carefully lifted it, revealing the faint, cream-colored backing, the air left his lungs in a silent gasp. Scrawled across the back, in a familiar, elegant script that was undeniably Sarah's own, were 3 damning words: "Our perfect escape. Love always, D." The locket clattered softly against the polished wood of his desk. The quiet morning exploded into a cacophony of internal alarms. His heart, a steady drum just moments before, now hammered against his ribs, a wild, panicked bird trapped in a cage. A wave of nausea, cold and acidic, rose from his gut. He stared at the locket, then at the photo, then back at the locket, as if by sheer force of will, he could rewrite the cruel narrative unfolding before him. D. Not Daniel. Not Thorne. Just D. An intimacy conveyed by a single initial, a possessiveness that sickened him to his core. He felt the tremors begin in his hands, spreading rapidly through his arms, then his entire body. His meticulously ordered world, built on foundations of trust and mutual respect, was crumbling, each grain of sand a lie he hadn't seen, a secret he hadn't known. 10 years. 10 years of building a life, a home, a future. Was it all a meticulously crafted illusion? A sudden sound. The jingle of keys at the front door. Sarah. She was home from her early yoga class. Instinct, cold and primal, took over. With a speed born of shock, John snatched the locket, pressed the incriminating photo back into its silver embrace, and snapped it shut. He placed it back into the velvet-lined box, tucked it precisely where he'd found it in the jewelry drawer, and smoothed the silk scarf over it, as if erasing the last 5 minutes from existence. He took a deep, shuddering breath, exhaled slowly, and forced a smile onto his face. It felt alien, stretched and brittle. He walked into the kitchen, the scent of fresh coffee lingering in the air. Sarah stood by the counter, radiant in her workout gear, her face bright with her usual easy smile, her hair damp from a shower. "Hey, you," she chirped, oblivious. "Already up? What's for dinner?" "I'm starvin'." "Steaks," John managed, his voice a little hoarser than usual. He cleared his throat. "Started marinating them just now. Thought we could make a special anniversary meal tonight. Commemorate the Big 10. He watched her face for any flicker, any tell, any sign that she knew. There was none. Just genuine, uncomplicated enthusiasm. She leaned in to kiss his cheek, a familiar gesture that now felt like a scorching brand. Inside, a cold, calculating resolve began to set, hardening the churning turmoil in his gut. This was no longer just about pain. It was about retribution. The days that followed blurred into a meticulous dance of deception. John became a silent observer, a master of feigned normalcy. His every interaction with Sarah was an exercise in emotional subterfuge. He listened, he nodded, he smiled. He played the part of the doting, trusting husband with a chilling perfection, while beneath the placid surface, a storm of fury and forensic intent raged. He began subtly. A forgotten phone on the charger. A laptop left open on the kitchen counter. Sarah, ever trusting, never suspected. He'd wait until she was in the shower, or out running errands, or simply asleep, and then he would begin his quiet excavation. Her phone was a goldmine. Texts, innocuous at first, then increasingly familiar with D. Early messages were about work projects, late-night calls about design concepts. But gradually, imperceptibly at first, the tone shifted. Inside jokes. Emoticons he never received. Plans for brainstorming sessions that stretched into the evening. Then, the travel. The late meetings that coincided with hotel bookings confirmed by credit card statements he discreetly accessed online. The girls' nights that were suspiciously quiet on the group chat, but yielded a shared location ping at a boutique bar downtown, far from her usual haunts, and even further from where her female friends lived. He felt like a spy in his own home, his own life. The emotional toll was immense. Each discovery was a fresh wound, a new layer of betrayal peeled back, revealing the rotten core beneath. He found photos in her cloud storage, more from the Santorini trip, some even more intimate than the locket photo. Daniel Thorne, looking smug and handsome, his hand resting on Sarah's lower back, their faces close, eyes locked in a shared, private universe. John felt the cold dread spread through him, but he suppressed the urge to smash the phone, to scream, to shatter the facade. His mind was now operating with the precision of a surgeon, collecting, categorizing, preserving. Every digital breadcrumb, every printed receipt, every fleeting email exchange was copied, dated, and stored on an encrypted drive he purchased specifically for this purpose. He traced D more fully. Daniel Thorne. Younger than Sarah, ambitious, recently divorced, and with a reputation for charm. He found Thorne's social media profiles, open and revealing. Photos of him in Santorini, taken around the same time as Sarah's supposed work conference. A public post of Thorne's, a vague caption about the most inspiring project yet, accompanied by a photo of a sunset over the Aegean Sea, a sunset that mirrored one Sarah had posted on her own profile, captioned, "Finally some peace and quiet after a grueling week." The irony was a bitter pill. The grueling week was actually their perfect escape. John felt a burning rage, a fury so intense it made his vision swim. He learned that Daniel Thorne was known for his ruthlessness in business dealings, a man who wouldn't hesitate to undercut a colleague to get ahead. A predator. And Sarah, his wife, had fallen into his snare, or perhaps had sought it out herself. The deeper he delved, the clearer it became. This wasn't a sudden lapse. This was an ongoing affair, carefully concealed, woven into the fabric of their daily lives. The work trips had been carefully orchestrated rendezvous. The late meetings had been stolen hours in shadowy corners of the city. Their home, once a sanctuary of love and shared dreams, had become a stage for Sarah's elaborate deception. The decision to involve a lawyer was not made lightly. John wrestled with it for days, pacing the floor at night after Sarah was asleep, the house silent except for the frantic beat of his own heart. His initial instinct was primal: confrontation, explosion, burning everything down. But the cold logic that had begun to assert itself on the day of discovery told him that was precisely what Sarah expected, what she probably even deserved. But it wasn't what he deserved. He deserved justice. He deserved to reclaim his life, his dignity, and his future, On his terms, he researched discreetly, finding a highly recommended family lawyer, Mrs. Anya Sharma, known for her sharp intellect and compassionate, yet utterly unyielding, approach. His first meeting with her was surreal. He sat across from her polished mahogany desk, presenting the meticulously organized binder of evidence. Her expression, initially one of polite skepticism, slowly transformed into one of professional astonishment as she flipped through the pages. Dates, times, receipts, texts, photos, all cross-referenced and annotated with his neat handwriting. "Mr. Davies," she said, her voice measured, "this is comprehensive. You've done most of the heavy lifting." Then came the delicate matter of the family trust. John explained its history, the Davies family's deep roots in the community, their long-standing traditions. "My grandmother was a formidable woman," he recounted, a faint smile playing on his lips, a stark contrast to the grim reality of his present. "She believed in loyalty above all else. When she established the trust, she insisted on certain conditions for the inheritors of the main family fortune. It was, admittedly, a product of its time." He pulled out a photocopied page from the old trust document, the archaic legalese daunting. Specifically, he pointed to a highlighted paragraph: "Should any beneficiary, being a spouse within the marital union, be found to have engaged in conduct contrary to the principles of fidelity, defined as willful and sustained marital infidelity, then their claim to the proceeds of this trust shall be null and void, and their share shall revert to the remaining lawful beneficiaries." He looked at Mrs. Sharma. "It's a fidelity clause. Ancient, but undeniably binding. Our 20th anniversary would have been the trigger for Sarah's share." Mrs. Sharma's eyebrows rose. "An interesting clause, Mr. Davies. Highly unusual in modern trusts, but if properly drafted and executed, which this appears to be, it is indeed binding. And given the evidence you've amassed, willful and sustained marital infidelity seems an understatement." They spent hours planning. The strategy was clear: no confrontation, no emotional outburst. Just the calm, undeniable presentation of facts, timed for maximum impact. The goal wasn't just divorce. It was to ensure Sarah faced the full consequences of her actions, particularly regarding the trust, which represented a substantial sum, enough to secure John's future comfortably, without any entanglement from her. He learned about asset division, alimony, legal precedents. He signed papers, authorized investigations, and felt a strange sense of empowerment growing within him. He was no longer a victim. He was the architect of his own liberation. The cold resolve solidified into a steely determination. The 2 weeks leading up to their anniversary were an exquisite form of psychological torment, but also a triumph of self-control. John maintained his facade flawlessly. He listened to Sarah chatter about her work, her friends, her upcoming trip to a spa with a vague client. He made her coffee every morning, cooked her favorite meals, even bought tickets to a concert she wanted to see. Each act of normalcy felt like a small, calculated betrayal of her own betrayal, a subtle turning of the knife. Sarah, utterly oblivious, seemed happier than ever. She talked about the exciting possibilities at her firm, the new connections she was making. John would nod, offering encouraging words, all the while knowing the possibilities and connections were rooted in deception. He watched her meticulously plan their anniversary dinner, selecting the finest wine, suggesting a new recipe. He participated, outwardly enthusiastic, inwardly a storm of bitter irony. His internal monologues grew more frequent, more intense. He replayed moments, conversations, searching for signs he'd missed, warnings he'd ignored. Had he been too trusting? Too complacent? The truth was, he'd simply loved her, blindly, completely. And that love had been used against him. The anger was a constant hum beneath his skin, but it was a quiet, controlled anger, not explosive. It was the anger of a craftsman perfecting his instrument of justice. He pictured the binder, sitting on his study desk, a silent sentinel of truth. Each piece of evidence felt like a heavy stone, building an impenetrable wall between their past and his future. He wasn't just ending a marriage, he was dismantling a lie. The day of their anniversary arrived, crisp and bright, a beautiful spring day that seemed to mock the darkness brewing within their home. Sarah was radiant. She spent the morning at the salon, her hair coiffed perfectly, her dress a shimmering emerald green, John's favorite color. She hummed as she moved around the kitchen, preparing ingredients for the elaborate dinner. "Can you believe it, John?" She beamed, her eyes sparkling. 10 years. It feels like yesterday we were dancing at our wedding. I can't wait to see what wonderful surprise you have for me." John offered a genuine-looking smile. "Oh, I think you'll find it quite memorable, darling." The double entendre hung in the air, unheard by her, a silent harbinger of the storm to come. The aroma of her homemade lasagna filled the dining room, a comforting scent that now felt tainted. Candles flickered, casting a warm, inviting glow. Soft jazz played from the stereo. Sarah, looking stunning, lifted her wine glass. "To us," she said, her voice soft and full of emotion. "To 10 incredible years, and many more to come." John raised his glass, clinking it against hers. "To us," he echoed, his gaze steady, betraying nothing. He took a sip, the fine Cabernet a familiar comfort on his tongue. He had to be perfect.
No hesitaschen, no wavering.
After dinner, Sarah began to clear the table. "All right, my love," she said, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Where's my surprise?"
"I'm practically bursting."
John rose slowly, a calm, almost serene expression on his face. He walked to the study, returning moments later not with a beautifully wrapped jewelry box, but with a sleek, black leather-bound binder. He placed it gently on the polished dining table, directly in front of her. Sarah's brow furrowed slightly. "What's this, darling? A new project? You're always working." A nervous laugh escaped her. "Don't tell me my anniversary gift is a financial report." John didn't laugh. He didn't even smile. His eyes, usually warm and expressive, were now cold and distant, like polished stones. He looked at her, truly looked at her, for the first time in weeks without the veil of pretense. "In a way, Sarah," he said, his voice quiet, almost a whisper, yet carrying a chilling finality. "It is a report. A full accounting." He opened the binder to the first page. On it, a single, perfectly clear, blown-up copy of the miniature photo from the locket. Sarah, laughing, radiant, in the arms of Daniel Thorne. Below it, in bold, stark lettering, was the inscription, "Our perfect escape. Love always, D." Sarah's face, which had been so full of joy moments before, drained of all color. The emerald green of her dress seemed to mock the sudden pallor of her skin. Her eyes darted from the photo to John, then back to the photo, her mouth opening and closing soundlessly. What is this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. John calmly flipped the page. The next displayed a printed copy of the archaic infidelity clause from the family trust. His finger tapped the relevant paragraph. "This, Sarah," he stated, his tone devoid of emotion, "is why we are having this conversation tonight. This is the condition. And this," he gestured to the photo, "is the proof of its breach." He continued to turn the pages, each one a fresh, devastating blow. Text messages, displayed chronologically, charting the progression of her affair, from discreet work-related exchanges to declarations of affection and detailed plans for clandestine meetings. Phone logs, showing countless calls to Daniel Thorne at all hours. Flight itineraries and hotel receipts for the work conferences that were actually romantic getaways. Digital photos from Santorini, the same one she'd posted on her social media, but with Daniel Thorne prominently featured, sometimes in compromising poses, her hand in his arm around her waist. A detailed accounting of shared expenses, showing lavish dinners and gifts. Sarah's initial confusion morphed into dawning horror. Her hands, which had been resting on the table, began to tremble. Her breathing became shallow, rapid. "John, no, this is a misunderstanding," she stammered, her voice thick with panic. "These are just work things. You know how close I am with my team. Daniel is just a colleague." John paused, his eyes fixed on hers. "A colleague whose arm is around your waist in Santorini, whispering our perfect escape?" he asked, his voice still terrifyingly calm. "A colleague you spend late meetings with until 2 a.m., when your phone location history shows you were at a downtown hotel. A colleague who sends you flowers to your personal address, not your office." He picked up another page, a bill from a high-end jewelry store, showing a purchase on her credit card, an expensive watch. "And a colleague for whom you bought this watch, Daniel's favorite brand, the very one he wears in his LinkedIn profile picture." Her pleas began then, desperate and raw. "John, please. I can explain. It's not what it looks like. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness. I was stressed, overworked. He was just there. It meant nothing, I swear." Tears welled in her eyes, finally spilling over, streaking her perfectly applied makeup. But John had no compassion left to give. He had bled internally for weeks, nursing his wounds in silence while she smiled and lied. Mistake, he scoffed, a faint, bitter edge finally entering his voice. A mistake that lasted months? A moment of weakness that encompassed multiple work trips and secret rendezvous? And nothing that you enshrined in a locket, a piece of my family history, marking our anniversary. He pointed to the binder. Every single piece of evidence in this binder tells a different story, Sarah. A story of calculated deceit. A story of a life you built parallel to ours. A life where you were screaming another man's name all weekend while I was planning a future with you. He leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping to a low, intense tone. That perfect escape you thought you were having? It just cost you more than you could ever imagine. That family trust, Sarah? The one that was supposed to secure our comfortable future? The one you were so excited about for our 20th anniversary? It's gone. Forfeited. Under the terms of that clause, the share designated for you now reverts to the remaining lawful beneficiaries, which, in case you're wondering, is me. And only me. You betrayed a legacy, Sarah. Not just mine, but generations of my family. Her face was a mask of shock, horror, and dawning comprehension. The pleas ceased, replaced by a guttural gasp. The weight of his words, of the irrefutable evidence, and the revelation of her financial ruin settled upon her. She looked at the binder, then at the locket still lying on the dining table, a small, silver sentinel of her undoing. The truth, stark and brutal, finally crashed down on her. John stood up. He felt a profound weariness, but also a strange, quiet sense of relief. He had delivered his justice. My lawyer will be in touch tomorrow, he said, his voice calm, with the divorce papers and all the details regarding the trust. I've already arranged for an interim separation. I'll be staying elsewhere tonight. He turned and walked out, leaving her alone in the flickering candlelight, surrounded by the remnants of their anniversary dinner, and the crushing weight of a legacy she had forfeited entirely. The locket, with its damning secret safely nestled inside, remained on the dining table, a silent testament to a future she had destroyed, and a past he was finally ready to leave behind.